Okay, welcome, Kim.
Hi.
Hi. Please tell everybody about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Kimi Ricor. I am a musician. I work with sound. That's my main medium. I've been in a lot of bands since I was 16 years old. The band that I'm in now is called Schnallo, and it's kind of a German dark wave band. And then I also make ambient music under my own name. And in my free time, I teach people how to give sound baths. So yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Okay, I have been to one sound bath before. I have to tell you what that was. So um I was curating an art show and I had someone come down from New York to do a sound bath, and the guests were like coming up to me and they were like, "What is this music?" And I was like, "It's a sound bath. Isn't it cool? What a treat." And they were like, "This doesn't make sense here." So got a little put
Yeah,
a
I feel
little
like
too much.
yeah, I definitely. I mean, I like love ambient music, so like I go to places all the time where they play very like mellow, dreamy stuff. And sound baths I feel like are best done when you're like just laying down and taking them. But yeah, I can see if somebody's like expecting it to be a little bit more
You know,
uppy, or they're like, this is not what I thought it was gonna be.
yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but maybe I needed it since I was the curator and I was like, I need to chill. But you
Yeah.
know what? I just switched to like Tchaikovsky after that, and everyone's like, "Oh yes, this is what I expected." And I was like, "Not very innovative."
Yeah, I mean, I really like for me, I'm a very anxious person, and so just like listening to anything ambient or just like certain frequencies. Like I study frequencies a lot and how they affect our body and our brain waves, and so there's just like certain frequencies that really help calm me down, especially if I'm like freaking out about something or just feeling overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
so when I started doing sound baths, for me, that was like, oh my gosh, this is like meditating, but like times 1,000, because I can immediately like get into it. Because I have such an ADHD brain that sometimes with meditation, it just takes me so long to get to a point where my brain's quiet.
Mhm.
Um, where with sound baths, it's almost like immediately my brain's just like, which I'm like, that's what I need.
That is so interesting. Um, like like ADHD behavioral management has been my theme this week. So um I will definitely try some sound baths too, and maybe I'll stop like buzzing around all the time.
Yeah.
Probably not. Some what will help me. Anyway, okay, so when did you first realize that you liked dark ambient music, some of the maybe even like sound baths and everything like that?
You know, like I think I've always loved ambient music. Like since I think the first ambient music I ever really heard, what I consider ambient music also, was Enya when I was like 4 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
like I still love Enya. Like to this day, I'm like a hardcore Enya fan. Um, and then when I was about like 16, I think I heard Aphex Twin's ambient works and Brian Eno's music for airports, and it just was like I think it changed my life because at that point I was just like such a little punk, just like listening to super heavy music all the time. And like I still love that music or
Mm-hmm.
dance music because I was kind of like walking this line between being a little raver and a punk. And so like all the music I was listening to was just like 130 to like 160 in terms of like how fast it was going. So to have
Mm.
something that was like so like beautiful and textural, but also didn't feel cheesy was really like game changing for me and really inspiring. And so I've always kind of walked the line of like having both of those types of music in my life because I love them both, and they both fulfill their purpose for
I can,
me.
yeah, I can totally hear those three different like genres in your music. I was really enjoying it when I was checking it out. I think that Ammo from Silent Mass recommended you for an
Yeah,
interview. So
yeah,
I
we were in a band together. Well, God, so long, like 15 years ago, we moved to LA together and started a band like as a joke, and then the band did really well, and we're like, oh, okay, joke bands, the way of the future. But yeah,
Mm.
I love Emma. I love everything she does. She's such a little genius.
It's and it's really true. Joke bands, it's amazing how they will pop off. Like one of my friends that does like I don't know, like a certain style of metal. She was telling me how she decided to just do like some tracks under a different name that were all just like skulls and war and like beer and like very typical. And that music actually blew up way bigger than her original stuff.
That's always how it is. Like I've had so many projects where I'm like, this is like our fun project that we do on the side where from all of our serious bands. And like that's the one that everyone is obsessed with. Cause I think you bring a energy of like, I don't give a fuck, this is just for fun. And then people feel that. And so they're just like, yeah, that's what we actually want,
True. That
you
is
know?
true. Like that's I guess like the fun of going to see live music is you step into a world that somebody created for you to play in for a little while. It's like if you go to an art class and they give you all of the like tools for like ceramics or like collaging and you don't have to like use your brain as much, you know? You like arrive and it's already prepared. I don't know. I'm on a tangent. So let's go back to the questions.
Welcome to like great, two ADHD people in a conversation. We're just like, "Ooh." What was the question?
So, if your music were a movie soundtrack, what would the movie be about?
But I love this question. Like, definitely some like late 70s, 80s sci-fi. Like, I just really like love Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner was like a movie that I saw and immediately was like, I'm obsessed with the soundtrack. I could also like see like Lord of the Rings, like a like a very epic fantasy, like not like a I mean, even if it was like like anything 80s, actually, I really dig all the sounds. But I
Mhm.
think like if anything, it would be like a cool sci-fi fantasy movie.
Nice. Okay. Something that's a cross between Blade Runner and Lord of the Rings. Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. Also, the Enya thing, since the brain is just having a little leapfrog game. Enya, oh my God. Memories of listening to Enya. Do you remember like how you heard it or how you got into Enya's music?
Yeah, my mom had a very my parents had a very interesting taste in music. Like my mom was a dancer, so she had like a lot of 80s breakdancing and like Michael Jackson, but then also she's a total witchy hippie lady, even though she would never call herself that. But so she like super loved, like Enigma and Enya. And so I'm pretty sure, as like when you're a kid and you start like getting interested in like what the grown-ups are doing, I think I just like
Mhm.
went through her CDs at the time. I don't even know, was it CDs or the tapes somehow, and was like, wow, I'm obsessed with this person's voice. And Enya's just someone I've gotten more and more obsessed with as I've gotten older because of like her lore is so insane to me. Like she lives in a castle
Oh
and
yeah.
has a cats. Like she's just like living her best life and just gets to like sing on Lord of the Rings. Like I'm like, and doesn't have to really tour. She's just like, I'm just hanging out in my castle, making music, hanging out with my cats. I'm like, okay, so how does it feel to live my dream life?
Yeah. I feel like castles are becoming like more affordable in some European countries. It's all things
Totally,
are possible. And
totally
same,
my castle here.
we just need more cats. That's where we can start. So,
Yeah.
but also my mom was an Enya fan. She had like a nightly ritual to help her fall asleep that was 2 glasses of wine, X-Files, and then an Enya CD when she got in bed.
Am I your mom? Like legitimately, I'm pretty sure I'm like that exact same formula. Like X-Files is also like very high on my list of things I love. Like
Is it box wine or is it bottled wine?
okay, that's very specific and I like
Right? So,
it.
um, okay, if you could collect any 3 vinyl records of all time, which would you like to have?
Oh my God. I'm really glad you sent me this question ahead of time because this is the kind of thing that I could get so lost in thought in and then really stress out and anxious about. There's a lot, but I feel like three that like really sum me up in a strange way is the KLF Chill Out. Um, it's an experimental ambient album, but it's so different than like anything and it's so cool. And I only discovered it like 10 years ago through my ex-boyfriend who is like was very much a gateway to opening even more new portals to music for me because he's such like a he's an amazing person and like just amazing brain and has like the best music taste. So he was like, "You're gonna love this," and it's
Okay.
amazing. I left Chill Out. If anyone is watching, just that one. Then there's this another band that he introduced me to that I really love because it's so strange and like the recordings feel like you're just like listening to it like in front of you, and it's called Exuma, and it's a self-titled album. It's called Exuma the Obea Man, and it's this, I think he's Caribbean artist from like the 70s, and he recorded like a couple albums, but they're so beautiful and trippy, but also
Mm.
like heavy and lo-fi. They're really, really good. Um, and I had like never had heard of him. And then once again, I love albums like that where you're like, how did this even like make it to
Hmm.
this time? Because it feels like not, it was never like, it was never something that was like, you know, big, big or commercial or so yeah, that one is really amazing. And then I think like my favorite post-punk band of all time is Malaria. So they're compiled like 1981 through 1984 songs. Is like an album that I play all the time to get ready and get myself psyched up. And yeah, I'm like not a fangirl. Like I really don't fangirl about like modern. I don't think I would even fangirl about like bands from the 80s other than this band because they're like super cool. They're also German. They're also from Berlin. They were just like they're still cool. Like they're to this day, they're still fucking cool. I think they're like all 60 and they're still like cooler than like anybody. So I'm like, okay, more goals. Enya and Malaria are my two goals.
Um, do send me the names of some because I will never remember any of the words that described that second album. I'm just gonna remember like what you said about it.
Yeah,
So
I'll send you the links to
and I
them.
will put them in the show description for everybody else that is as curious as I am. Okay, if you could play your next tour with any three bands alive today, who would you choose? And is there any festival you'd like to play most of all?
Well, once again, I'm gonna say Malaria just because like they are idols of mine and I just love their music. So I'd like love to just hear them every single night. And then the other two bands, I actually decided to pick two people that I know. One is my friend Luisa, and she goes by Luisa, and her music making partner is Maelstrom. They have like a really fun techno punk project. And they're also like, just like the best people, and their music is so fun. And I feel like I would just have the best time touring with them. And I think like I've toured a lot in my life, so once you've toured so much, you like just realize that you kind of just want to be on the road with people that you really like
Mm-hmm.
and whose music you like and who you think you could just like hang out with for like a month straight. And they're definitely that. And then the third one is my friend Jennifer Touch, who is a Berlin artist who's really amazing. She also makes kind of like dark wave, romantic, electronic music. And we are actually going to go on tour in November, I think, through like France and the UK. So, but she's just,
Nice.
we're like two peas in a pod. I really, really like her and I really love her music. So, yeah,
Ooh,
those are three.
okay. Yeah, do send me that as well. I'm excited to check that out. That's because like you, I feel like I spend a lot of time listening to heavier music. Like doing this channel certainly helps me find lots of new things to listen to. Uh, but like I don't think I'm getting as many sort of like things with a touch of goth to them. Like I kind of feel a little bit of goth in your music. What do you think? Do you think that's like um
Yeah, I like love gothy music and like, I mean, I think that I just have so many influences. I'm definitely would consider myself more influenced by like dark wave, than just straight up goth, but like I
Mhm.
fucking love I mean, I'm like, is the Cure goth? Like I love the Cure, you know,
Oh
like
yeah,
I
that's
love
what I was thinking of. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the Dead Can Dance. I mean, I like I really love the sound of goth bands, especially yeah, like once again, 1980s goth bands, the sound of it. And I actually really love that there's so many new bands that are kind of just like imitating that sound because I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, that sounds great. So keep doing that, you know. I'm never somebody who's like, oh, everyone's just copying what already happened. I'm like, yeah, why not? It was a great time for music. So just
Yeah.
keep it going. But yeah, like I always struggle with like what to really call my music because definitely that's what I'm mostly influenced in, but I definitely sometimes bring in some other stuff and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's also there, you know." Like I love like early 2000s, specifically Berlin electroclash. Like there was just like a really small time period from like 2001 to 2004 that was just like in Europe had like the best like electro-y, like fun, like lo-fi, just like sweaty music that I really dug. And that's sometimes I'm like, I try to put that like funness into my stuff. So I'm like, I feel like I'm not serious enough to be goth. I like love the aesthetic, I love the sound. I'm just like not, I'm like too dorky on a regular basis to be a goth, you know?
Oh, yeah. I don't know what official goth is, but like goth touch. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm touched by goth. I love that goth touch.
yes,
Yeah.
toucheth of goth. Um, okay, but yeah, and I'd also like to know which bands you're listening to that have been touched by goth because um the only one that I actually know personally is Unto Others. My
Into it.
friend, yeah, my friend Sebastian plays guitar in the band. Um, but actually
Where are they from?
they're going on tour with Motley Crue. So,
Oh, that's just like a casual. Oh yeah, and you know they're just going on tour with Motley Crue.
right. So like they're like really fun to listen to, like fun enough to go on tour with Motley Crue, but they're definitely like very goth. And so it's almost like anyway, you'll I'll send it to you, you'll see.
I'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
Who do I listen to that I feel like is there are definitely people who I think are. I always like listen to since I've been in Berlin. I listen to all these bands of producers that are kind of half goth, half techno. Um, I mean, like there's Zanya's who's like I think she's pretty gothy, but she sings over a lot of electronic music. She's like pretty well known here for doing that. Um, Jennifer Touch, I feel like has been touched by goth. There's a band called Curses. That's this guy Luca. There's a girl from the Bay Area named Ricky who I think is really great, and I don't even know. I think she's like almost fully goth, but she's really cool. She has a really great song called Böse Lügen, where she's like, she's not German, but she sings in German and it's so good. But yeah, I can send you, I have like a playlist that I made of like a lot
And
of different.
playlist. I'll put the playlist in the show notes too. Okay, I'm so excited for it because it's so refreshing for me right now after having like I would say my spring was like entirely power metal and I'm kind of like I'm like gosh, sounds good. Um
Sometimes you just gotta like rock out.
yeah, so like let's okay, so actually it was like kind of like a proggy power metal summer, but and or spring, I mean. Looking back, what was a big decision you made that turned out to be a great choice?
Mm, I think like when I was 17, I decided to um I graduated early because I just had enough credits. And instead of just hanging out in my hometown, I got on a Greyhound bus and went to San Francisco um, to meet up with a guy that I had met. And he ended up I ended up dating him, but he also is the one who ended up like teaching me about production and how to produce music. And he brought me into kind of a crew of people who were like very, very like they just like lifted me up, you know, and they really supported me being a musician. And they were always like, you can produce, you can do this. And like it was interesting because I think um especially in that time period, I didn't have a lot of uh women in music around me. But the men that I had around me were like really uplifting. They weren't like the kind that were like, oh, I'll just produce that, or don't, you know, you can just play keyboard. They were always like, get behind the computer, like you can do it. Or like if I made something by myself, they would be like, this is amazing. And so I feel like in this like very formative time in my life, I was surrounded by people who really nurtured me being creative and me kind of going for music, because at that point in time I loved music, but I never thought about it as something that I would do this long, you
Mm,
know. I always thought I would be a writer and go to school, or you know what I mean. I always thought that I was maybe going to have a more normal life path in some way, but that early time period, I just became so obsessed with music, and with like synths and like making sounds and everything, that it just like led me down my path. And I think about that now. Like I think about being 17 years old. Like when I see 17-year-olds, I'm like, I got on a bus from Colorado to San Francisco by myself to go like meet somebody in a city that I didn't know. Like I took so many risks and I was so brave and I just did it. And I'm like so happy because I think my life trajectory would have been completely different if I didn't do it. So yeah, good job, baby Kimmy.
Yeah,
You
it's
did.
all about those the big leap of faith. That's like the theme of the answer to the question. Even when the answer has been like I married my husband, um that's still a leap of faith. Takes a lot of faith. So-
100%. Sometimes they're like such small things, but like I think there's just like I think we all have those moments in our life where we're like we can look back and we're like that's where everything changed, or
Mm,
that's where we're like one path went this way, one path went this way, and I
mm,
chose this one that led me into this world versus this world. And I think like we have many like I think I probably would have eventually come back to music, but I don't know if I would have had the same relationship the way I do with it now, where it's like it is everything for me.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm really, really grateful for that decision.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was so nurturing to be around people who told you that you had the capacity to produce and like do more than like play or write or perform, but like really take all of it in. And like when you're 17, your brain is so stretchy. It's a wonderful time. Um,
100%. So I think that is like when people are like, what is advice you give to people? I'm like, just surround yourself with people who like believe in you, and who are going to support you. And I don't actually think it's really important at the beginning to have people who are just like um constructive criticism. At the beginning,
mm,
it should be about playing and like learning and like trusting yourself. And then like once you're confident in that part, then you can start working on like, okay, let's like figure out the technique. But I think what happens a lot with people is that they start off, especially in my situation, I was surrounded by people who were like 10 years older than me, who were all like really good at what they did. And
mhm,
there could have been a huge opportunity for them to just at every like turn kind of criticize what I was doing and be like, that's like not this. But they didn't. They were like, this is amazing. This sounds so cool. This is so like unique. And I think
mhm,
that they really nurtured the freedom in me of being like, oh yeah, what I do is cool and weird.
mm.
And I think it's really important that you always have that around yourself if you're a creative, like that you have a community of people who are like, yeah, we're gonna just like bump you up and make sure that you're supported in what you're doing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, what is your favorite gear and your favorite stage wear?
Okay, my favorite gear, I could go. My favorite gear is my OB6, which is a synthesizer my friends bought me for my birthday like 5 years ago. That is the best synth that exists. I have two pieces of gear from this company called Soma, which is a Lyra and a Cosmos that are really dark and dreamy and are so much fun to play. Ableton 12 for sure is a huge game changer. And then in terms of stage wear, I have these like thrifted black biker boots that I got for 20 euros that I can just wear everywhere. And every time I wear them, everyone's like, they're amazing, but they always feel so good, like to
Mm,
wear.
mm-hmm.
And then my other one is Veleda Skin Food. Like it's like the vibe because it's such a good moisturizer. And if you're
Oh,
anything
okay,
like
yeah.
your skin gets dried out, but you can put it on and you're like just looking like a glowing queen. Um and it's also you can put on your hands and everything. I mean, I play guitar, so sometimes my hands get all like dry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good I feel like it's a good thing to have in your bag when you're trying to be minimalistic, but you're like, okay, I want something for my face, but I also want stuff for my hands. And yeah, those are my big ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good tip about like when you're traveling light. Uh one of the other rock goddesses was talking about when she's on the road, she always buys one of those little squishy stuffed animals. And she also gets the face mask that you just like put on and take off without water because she's in a van. And I was like, "Hey, good advice."
It's so smart. Like
Yeah.
I feel like the more you go on tour, the more you just are like, what? like I remember the first time I went on tour versus like the last time I went on tour. It was just like night and day where I'm like, I have this on lock. Like I can go on tour with nothing. You know, where when at first I was like, I have to pack an outfit for every day. And you're like, no, we're repeating and we're gonna make it creative.
Oh yeah, you're so right about that. It takes me back to like I was doing merch for a band called Huntress, and it's like this well, it was a female fronted I'd say like power metal or like traditional metal band. And I packed an outfit for every day. And the bassist was like, "Do you have different clothes for every day?" I was like, "Yeah, wait, why don't you? Ew." But I learned.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. They're all like, okay, you'll understand. But like also on tour, eventually you like kind of eventually every day feels like Groundhog Day. So eventually, like when you're like, I'm just gonna wear my sweatpants until I change into my thing because I can't. Like we've been in a van for like 12 hours. I don't care about what I look like at all anymore. You know, like you do
Yeah.
kind of like lose the connection to that part of being like a human where you're just like, nope, we just got to get from point A to point B and then like switch into your stage persona, which for me is like a nice thing to have, like stage outfits and whatnot.
Hmm.
Just because it can help me just be like, okay, you're going from like introverted, shy Kimmy to like on stage
Yeah, the
out there.
being.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, that was great. That unlocked a core memory for me, and I am gonna definitely be retelling that story later because when I get on the flight and go over there, I'm gonna be seeing people from that band. So I'm gonna be like, "Do you remember this?" So anyway, and then you're actually giving me this brilliant new idea. I have like a like house dress collection, which is just like insane robes, like, like feathery pink robes and like sequined things. And you can't wear them outside for anything. I just like having them in my house for like drinking tea and reading a book. But what if that was like your van wardrobe was just like always existing in a pink feathery robe until you got on stage, like as if you lived inside a dressing room?
Wow, that would be so next level. You like that? I feel like I mean, like I do know bands who like are always on. Where I'm like, okay, I don't know how. Like every time you see them, they just look like they're like, we're rock stars. We always look this, and you're like, great. I'm so happy for you. That's not me.
No, no. I want to be like Miss Piggy, or I want to be like some of the like sort of villains from Disney movies. Like what would Cruella de Vil wear in a van?
I mean, I love that you're just being like, this is my van robe. And it's like super amazing, but it's probably like also very comfortable. So you're like, it's comfy and chic. So
Yeah, and it's like it covers you fully, but you don't have to like wear anything that straps onto you because we all know that we don't want to wear a bra all the time. So, what is a performance memory that you will never forget?
gosh, you I got this one and I was like, oh my gosh, which one? I feel like my brain forgets like everything. So I was like, which one is the one that I remember the most? Um, I think I like really will always remember like the first time I played a show and in San Francisco when I was like 17 in this band that I joined. And I was so nervous. And we played at like a little dive bar. And it's crazy that I can remember it. Like I remember how nervous I was, but then like I also remember like that feeling of like electricity of like being on stage and like singing and being like I think that's where my brain was just like clicked into being like, this is what I want to do. Like this is what I want to do. And this is where I feel at home, And so I think I've always just like always like get that feeling whenever I perform. But that first time was such like I think after spending so much of my life being really uncertain of where I belong or like what I'm supposed to do or like what feels good to me. Um, and like not clicking with like normal things like that some of my classmates maybe clicked with. Um, it was like such a special thing to finally feel like this is that for me, like this is where I feel good, like this is what feels good to me, this is like where I'm home and this is what I want to do. And I think that that first performance it was like such a small little sweet performance, but like I'll never like not remember that.
It, those things matter a lot,
Yeah,
like the little things at the beginning matter so much. And then, like, no matter what kind of creative you are, like publishing, like your like self-publishing your first like book of stories or poetry is like such a weird like thing. And then I don't know, but like I don't know. Anyway, tell us about your new announcements and how we can follow what you do.
Okay, new announcements. I wrote and produced a full-length album for my band Schnallo, and I'm releasing it on August 8th on just my own label that I made up to release it. And you can find it on schnallo.bandcamp.com, or if you just look Schnallo up on Spotify, I'm pretty sure I'm like the only Schnallo there is. And I am working on an ambient album also under my own name, but you can always follow me. I post about this stuff on my Instagram, which is Kimi from the internet.
Okay,
Um, and that band's name on Instagram is Schnallo the band. So yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, and especially for being flexible today since I had to switch everything around. Um, so yeah, have an awesome day, and I hope to talk to you again soon. I'll be looking for your tours in Europe too.
Yeah, cool. It's so nice to talk to you and have a great flight.
Thank you. Bye.
Cool. Bye.